This here is the Corsair Frame 4000D, not to be mistaken with the old 4000D, very different case. And as much as I enjoy giving Corsair the occasional shit in my videos for the things they do, and they do a lot of things, basically every product page has the comma in the price tag misplaced by a digit, I gotta say, as a concept, like the whole frame concept, I really like it. But let's first go over the basics. The Frame 4000D exists in 3 different versions. The bare bones without any fans, the RS sub version with 3 RS 120 fans in the front, and the 4000D RS ARGB with, you guessed it, 3 RS ARGB fans in the front. And each of them exists in black and white. The one we will be focusing on today will be the bare bones black version that got sent to me. Just please ignore the ridiculous amount of depth enhancing IQ fans. That was just for the build, and they send them along, and I sincerely doubt that my bank would have agreed to me buying that many IQ fans. Anyway, standing on the table, the case is 485mm high, 467mm deep, 249mm wide, and stands on 3.3cm high feet. Once it's filled, it stands firm, doesn't have too much of a wiggle going on, and there is some rubber underneath the feet to prevent any potential scratches on the table. So nothing to nag here. The left side of the case is covered by a 3.9mm thick tempered glass side panel, nice and thick, that's great, but mounting is different. To get it off, we first need to unscrew the 2 catching thumb screws in the back, which in itself is okay, it's great, but from here on, the case uses kinda 2 different mounting mechanics simultaneously. Towards the back of the panel, there is a little piece of metal for the pop mechanic, the pop type of mechanic, and then the front is still sliding into some pieces, or sliding some pieces into the front part of the case. So what you basically do is unpop the back side, then hope it doesn't fall out, and then slide it towards the back. The problem is, and don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying this is a bad way of mounting it down. It's just, it's unexpected. So far, I haven't seen any case use both mounting mechanics simultaneously. But the thing that kind of bothers me is when you try to install it back, you are kind of required to like hold the glass in place, because otherwise it will fall out. I don't know, it's like a case that I have a smudge there from my hand. It's impossible to get, or for me, it's impossible to get the glass in there without touching it. It's, yeah. On the other side of the case, same exact thing, and so for the side of the PSU shroud. The only thing that attaches by screws and sliding alone is the top panel, and of course the front panel, but that's just a very special one I want to keep for later. Inside we'll find up to E80X motherboards, which is kind of surprising given the form factor. We got up to 170mm high air cooler support, which is kind of the only weakish point of the case, I believe. 170 technically is fine, but if you want to rock something like a Nokia NHD15 or a Be Quiet Dark Rock Elite with higher up, like right fan because of the RAM, yeah, then they're screwed, basically. But that doesn't count for the GPU. There we got up to 420mm long cards until you start hitting the front fans, if you've installed some, which you probably will, so 420. And that paired with the 17cm depth means you can do pretty much whatever you want. The NVIDIA Octopus will fit fine, and yeah, it's a do whatever you want GPU type of case. Now, before we get to the interesting part, which is the fan and radiator support, let's quickly finish the rest of the more boring stuff. The power supply has its own little compartment in the bottom with removable dust filter, which for a change is accessible via the side, which is a very thoughtful step and not totally brain dead like 99% of cases out there which have like a dust filter which is removable from the back, which just doesn't make any sense at all. And Corsair says you get a 220mm long PSU limit. And I can tell you the absolute limit that you really have is 240mm, but I would suggest to try to stay even below the 220 from Corsair. Sure, you can knock yourselves out. I mean, it's your time, not mine. But inside of this case, you've got a hard limit, which is this mesh back panel here, or the backside of the PSU shroud over here. And you do not want to reach that. So try to stay below 200 just for convenience sake and like no stuffing sake. And if you've got one of these side cable PSUs, then you can easily go for the full 240, but I doubt that there even is like a side mounted one with 240 long PSUs. Technically, Corsair did build in a little helping feature for the PSU. You are supposed to slide the PSU in from the back, and then you've got 2 pre-attached catching thumb screws ready to get the PSU to stay in place before you finish it off with the other 2 screws. The thing is just, it doesn't work for me. I'm pretty sure this is a unique problem for my Be Quiet Dark Power 13, but I am reluctant to say that it's the PSU manufacturer's fault just because Corsair wanted to save a buck by taking the shortest PSU screws that they could find. If the feature would work, that would be great, but it doesn't. So yeah, amazing feature, Corsair, thanks. The I/O is located in the bottom of the front. We got a clicky start button, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A's, a 3.2 Gen 2 Type C, and a combined audio in and out. For the front panel connector, Corsair did the right thing and included the all-in-one plug, which is great, and they've also included a separating adapter in the box of goodies, which is even greater. In terms of drives, we got 2 separate drive spots. One is behind the motherboard compartment and can be removed for easier access or give you any access behind the CPU socket if you later on need it. And the other one is sitting behind the front panel, also removable with a simple thumb screw. Each of these gives you either a 3.5-inch drive or 2 2.5-inch drives. So in total, we can go with either 4 SSDs, 2 fidget spinners, 2 SSDs and 1 fidget spinner, or just nothing. Just keep in mind that there are stamped in IQ Link hub placements on these brackets to make it, I don't know, look tidier. Theoretically, you can stick these whatever you want. I mean, they're magnetic, but this is just cleaner and it holds better because it's like a stamped in thing, and you win like a millimeter because they are stamped in. So keep that in mind that you lose them if you go with any drives. And with that, let's finally get to the whole frame part of the 4000D. And the thing is, if you just get the case and you build a PC in it, you're kind of going to miss it. The functionality of the frame. Like, it is not in your face, it's not obvious. The idea behind the frame is modularity and exchangeability. You want to replace something, go for it. The only thing really required to keep on going is like the frame, the outer chassis of the case. The first level of this comes with the motherboard plate. You want to paint that sucker, or you want to have it easier to work on, 4 screws and it's out. The side here where you got the GPU anti-sag bracket, cool that they include this, but I want to use fans, so 1 screw in the back and pull it out and replace it with the fan bracket also included in the box of goodies. Want to keep the anti-sag bracket? Just reposition the little fella to the motherboard plate with the rail included in the box of goodies. Want to install your GPU vertically? 2 thumb screws in the back and reposition the thing. Just bring your own PCIe riser. Don't like the PSU shroud at all? A few screws and off it goes. And Corsair even goes much further than that. There is this trailer that shows what Corsair's goal here is. They are shooting for a platform where you can replace the front panel, PSU shroud, the glass panel, the top panel, literally everything except the frame of the case. And the features are there. You can absolutely take the entire thing apart and only be left with the frame. Even the front I/O can be taken apart, and they do not show that in the manual, but there are documents where they state if you want to upgrade the I/O panel down the line when they release one, you can do it, and yes, you can do it. And I think the reason I like this so much is because it is not forced. Because my experience so far with like modular cases is you get a tiny whiny box, and then the next 2 hours is you figuring out how to put the entire thing together. Here, it's a perfectly fine case, but if you decide to change something out at some point later, you've got the option. The thing is just, there is nothing. As unfortunate as it is, for some reason Corsair decided to launch the Frame 4000 before launching any of its replacement parts. And as far as I know, it will take until end of the year before anything becomes available, which is, in my opinion, very unfortunate, and means that for any of these cool looking front panels that they showed in the trailer, like on the product page, we are going to have to wait. Not a smart move if you ask me. This feels like Samsung releasing a smartphone with an upgradable battery, but they don't release the battery. Doesn't feel particularly nice. And this does mean that the case's like full potential is yet to be seen. But there are more things that we can like see today, like fan compatibility. If there is one thing that the Frame 4000D can do, then it's move air. The front of the case has this really cool pattern going on. Corsair calls this the 3DY pattern, made out of steel, and they claim 12% more airflow compared to the pattern on the old 4000D. I'm not sure how true that one statement is, but regardless of that, the thing moves air. Little to no restriction, the front fans just pull through the thing as if there was nothing there in the first place. To get rid of it in the future for replacements or fan installations, just pop it off, and behind we'll find a nice fabric dust filter built into a plastic frame which is magnetic, and behind all of that we'll get this. This is another main feature of the Frame series, and I hope Corsair keeps on doing that and keeps on using that for future cases. These are the InfiniRails. These are rails that are easily movable. By default, they should be set to 120, so nothing needs to be done. But if you want to use 140s in the front, simply loosen the screws at the top and the bottom of each rail, move the rails outwards until the inner screw is aligned with the 140 mark, and tighten it up again. And boom, 140mm support. And now you might think this is rather pointless because there are many multi-fan size compatible brackets out there, like the replacement side bracket, for example. That one is like the older style of doing it. And that's technically true, but if you install, for example, a 140mm fan on a multi-bracket, you will always you have to end up with some amount of rail, some amount of bracket being glued to the 140mm fan, basically obstructing parts of it. I mean, the 120mm bars have to be somewhere. Not saying that you are tanking the fan, but this just isn't the perfect scenario. Using the InfiniRails system, perfect use case. You just pull them apart and there you go. But that's not all. Corsair doesn't want you to hard mount the fans onto the rails, because once you've got them set to 120, or once they are just in 120, you will notice that the fan will just fall through. And that's where these come into place. Corsair wants you to clip these onto the rails and then mount the fan onto these. Why? In the beginning, I thought this might come in handy for some additional vibration absorption, for example. But for that to happen, they would need to be made out of rubber, but they are not, they're just plastics. If you remove the most inner screw on every rail, you can actually use the new most inner screw as a guide to set the rails to 120 or 140 and put everything perfectly into place for 120s or 140s to be mounted straight onto the rails. So yes, technically you can just ignore them. Corsair just never mentions that possibility in the manual. And by the way, just like as a very small side note, if you don't use them and you are okay with removing the new most inner screws, basically 2 screws on each rail, is reposition the fans left and right as you please, or basically take away the forced central position. Now, is this useful? Probably not. And it might look very dumb if you got RGB fans in there, but it is something you could do to better align the airflow of the case. For example, if you got ridiculously high RAM and you got an air cooler behind and you want the air to travel as close to the glass panel as possible. That's something you could do. It will probably look stupid if you got RGB fans, but you can do it. But back to the things you are supposed to do. The top of the case also features this InfiniRails system, just a much easier version of it. A single rail, you can loosen it up with 2 screws and switch between 120 and 140mm fans within a minute. Why was the front not designed this way? This is so easy to understand, and here you don't use the clips, you just bolt them straight onto the rails. The front could be a copy of the top. I don't know why they didn't do that. Anyway, I love the InfiniRails. Great system, everything holds onto the case amazingly. Keep doing this, every case needs this. But Corsair wasn't done, because the top rails are also compatible with 160mm fans. And although the only 160 I've got uses 140mm hold spacing, so that's kinda useless, but hey, at least they made sure to give you the necessary breathing area for that 160 fan. But this is not what I'm talking about. Not only does the front provide you with pretty much restriction-less access to 140s and 160s, but if you don't want to use the plastic clips, the front is then also compatible with 2 full-on 200mm fans. Finally a case where I can fit my Nokia NF820s. This is really, really cool. I know there aren't many 200mm fans around, but this is really cool. And the reason I am so excited about this is, well, I think, is that it is, I believe, the very first case where you got 120, 140 and 200mm support without blocking half the fan. I would have to check that, but I believe the last time we had a case with 200mm support, it was basically the multi-bracket where the 140 and 120 holes were just covering half the fan. So this is a perfect implementation of 200mm fans and I really like it. But back to the fans. In total, the case is a monster. We got triple 120s or dual 140s in the top, triple 120s, dual 140s, and a single 200s in the front, 3 120s or 2 140s on the side mount if you choose to use it. And by the way, there is also a magnetic dust filter in between the case and the back panel. And a single 120 or 140 in the back. And this would, for example, be a perfect example of a, I want to say stupid, but like stupider 140mm implementation where the rails of the 120 would still block off parts of the 140, which is unfortunate, but that's That's the usual case, and this is the better case. And on top of the PSU shroud, we got another two 120s, and these are also slightly special, because although the first one is entirely covered by the PSU, there is a little bit of a gap between the two, and towards the front, we've also got another gap where the PSU ends and where that Y mesh side piece begins. And the reason I think they are kind of special is because they actually do something for once. We'll talk a bit more about it in the build section of this video. But for once, on top of PSU mounted fans make a difference, and that's really great. But, and there is always a but, this side piece here comes with this white plastic sheet installed in it. Now, this sheet has, I believe, multiple purposes. First of all, it gives you this cool 3D white effect on the design, okay. But it also prevents air from the front fans to be pushed out right behind the most bottom front fan, because yes, that happens. And in case you install a radiator in the front, you would be pushing out hot air, which would then be sucked right back in behind and then pushed into the GPU, which, yeah, that's hot air recycling right there. On the other hand, if you remove that sheet by simply pulling on it, the PSU shroud fans benefit from that, and the mesh part now actually does something. The thing is just, I wasn't able to measure any difference if that piece of plastic was there or not. And as the most bottom front fan seems to be supplying enough air, installing and removing that side piece of plastic just didn't create enough of a difference to be measured in terms of GPU temperature. The only thing I was able to observe is that the smoke doesn't get out once the mesh is closed. So there's that. Another benefit of having this piece of plastic in there is that you won't be able to see braided cables within the PSU tunnel. Black on black doesn't really matter, it's black on black, but if you do, for example, a black and white build and you've got a black case, you've got white braided cables, you will see them through the mesh, which in my opinion just looks hideous, and this is where the sheet also comes in. And if white just isn't your thing, Corsair includes another black one for replacement in the box of goodies. So if blacking out is your goal, there you go. And now onto the radiators. Up to 360 or 280 in the front, top and side, and a 120 or 140 in the back, but not simultaneously. The front and the top can both take a 360 at the same time, as long as you've got regular 27 or 30 millimeter thickness. Once you go thicker than that, or if you push-pull one of them, the two will collide. For the side-mounted one, you can use that spot simultaneously with the top as long as your rad is below 70 millimeters thick. Just keep in mind that if your GPU is longer than 270, like mine here, you are limited to a 30 millimeter thick rad paired with regular fans until you start hitting the GPU itself. And for the side and the front radiator combi, it is just not possible. I mean, you could use an ultra-thin radiator on both and then use that, like remove all except one screw trick and then offset the front, but yeah, if you use the case in its default state, the side radiator would just collide with the front, be it fans or rad, as soon as you reach a 20 millimeter radiator, so yeah, there's that. And I found that the side mount in general has a little bit of a radiator problem, because if you're using a 140 millimeter based rad, you would collide with the front fans if they are regular 25 millimeter thick fans. So to not overcomplicate this, side and front are generally uncompatible to combine with rads. The side is 120 millimeter rads only, or 140 if something is thinner. So either the 140s on the side have to be thinner, or the rad itself has to be thinner, or the 120s in the front have to be thinner. Something has to be thinner, otherwise no side and front radiator combination option will be available. And as a last little restriction, keep an eye on this screw. It's about 80 millimeters away from the front, so if you are planning to do some crazy push-pull combi with the front, you might come close to that, or you just remove the entire drive plate and then you're done. And of course, the front takes away from the GPU length. Fans and rads, everything that goes in there can be subtracted from the maximum GPU length. And with that, let's talk about the build we did in here. This is one of the more expensive builds we did for a case review. We got a 9950 X3D pad with a 4080, everything installed onto the NZXT X870E and 9, everything black, everything beautiful. To cool the PC, we went completely ballistic. This is a Corsair IQ Link Titan 360 in push-pull with another set of RX 120 IQ fans. On top of the PSU shroud, we got another two in reverse, a 120 regular in the back, another two reverse 140s on the side as intake, and topping it off with the last three 120s in the front. Everything IQ, I drank the Kool-Aid, but it works damn well. To benchmark all of this, we use CPU burner from Firmark and Firmark itself, and because we were already in the IQ universe, we might as well just stay in it. So we used IQ to force all the fans to go all in, which was making the CPU stay at a very cozy 71.6 degrees C. Switching everything to the balance preset gave us 74.5 degrees C, and everything on quiet gave us 75.5 degrees C. So CPU-wise, excellent build. I love the results, they are amazing results. But the GPU too. Without any fans, we were looking at 68 degrees C at 1080p, and making the bottom fans help the GPU spin at max, we saw the numbers go down to 63 degrees. So the bottom fans definitely do work. And here I reinstalled that white sheet that came with the case originally to see if it causes any restrictions to the bottom fans. And yes, it does create some restriction. It definitely does. I mean, there is smoke going through the mesh into the bottom fans. If I don't have the sheet, if it is there, everything is just supplied by the front fan. So it does do something, but the difference is just too small to get outside the scope of a modular error. So cooling wise, excellent case. You can see it with the smoke too. No buildup, no restriction, nothing. The smoke goes in and out. The front panel handles that perfectly. I love what they've put together here. But not just cooling wise, also design wise, I really enjoyed this one. The front panel, like the 3D Y thing, looks amazing in person. And so do these kind of triangular shaped holes on the PSU shroud and top panel. Speaking of which, the top is bent. It has a radius on both sides, making the case partially round at the top or rounded off at the top. And in the end, it's yourself who needs to decide if you like this or not. But in person, for me, this looks fantastic. The design part of the case is truly... Oh, I just realized there's like a Corsair stamped in there. Oh, I never realized that. That's kind of cool. Now, so far you've seen me talk about the Frame 4000D as if it was able to cure cancer, and it might be pretty close to that, but I still got a bunch of stuff worth nagging about. But first, some honorable mentions. The GPU anti-sag bracket is pretty cool. It can be repositioned and repurposed in case you ditch the original plate in favor for more fans. And in case that this straight pole touches a GPU fan, Corsair includes a little spacer in the box of goodies that you can just slap on and then offset the GPU wherever it can without touching the GPU fan. What a nice, thoughtful step. And the case is back connector compatible. And in case you want to go that route, go for it. But if you want to max it out, Corsair includes a black magnetic piece meant to hide the tiny little piece of connector that would maybe be visible from the right angle. Which is okay, why not? And cable management is very fine. There aren't any rubber protectors on any of the holes, but I didn't really mind. Probably because there aren't any like actual holes to hide. Most of the cables are just meant to come through like case wide or high areas that just are open, like the side and the top. And we got about 2.6 centimeters worth of cable stuffing area in the back, which for this build was perfectly fine. We got two specific locations for IQ controllers, because Corsair is still Corsair, and although the PSU length is limited, this part here does help not to have cables dangling into the front. And of course, the usual Velcro strips and huge zip tie slots. So overall, cable management wise, absolutely fine. Nothing revolutionary, but definitely fine. And just as a side info, the back top fan spot has a bigger hole. Not for a fan, but probably for the biggest 8-pin CPU connector access I have seen so far, so yeah, if you forgot that, cool little detail. Okay, let's butcher this case. The InfiniRails system is great, top at least is really great, but the front wasn't as easy to understand. The fact that you need to use the screw as an alignment isn't really obvious, and so is the fact that these exist and what they are for. Overall, using the front as you are supposed to is a little bit of a hassle, because nobody tells you half the stuff, and nobody tells you, because of reason number 2, no printed manual. Corsair expects you to go onto the website, scroll down under guides, and then open the manual, which A, is just ultra unintuitive, and B, just print the goddamn manual. I understand the whole save the trees thing, but if you can print a safety, compliance, and warranty information sheet in 27 different languages for legal reasons, you might as well just print a manual. As stated before, the screws for the PSU don't catch mine, but it sucks for me, I know, but it is a unusable feature in some instances, so keep that in mind. Opening and closing the case is janky at best. I get the idea, but mix-matching opening mechanics will lead to multiple people just letting the glass fall. The case is super IQ friendly until it isn't. Like the back PSU shroud fan can't be connected using a IQ 90-degree angle cable. 1 millimeter more and it would have been the perfect way to hide this cable. Because of how the case is built, the front panel connector sticks out in the bottom. Not really anything negative, but with the front being located at the bottom, I see this as a desk standing case, and depending on your viewing angle, this might just look weird. And coming to my personal nemesis, installing a GPU. For some reason, the holes where this end of the GPU is meant to go in are either too thin or not at the right angle. Not sure which of the two it is, but my GPUs won't go all the way in. The solution for this is rather simple, but you need to know what you are looking for. I fixed my issue by removing the entire PCIe shroud and manually pushing the tip into the hole. I know this sounds very wrong, but it is a major issue. First-time builders will not know what is going on, and I can see how a bunch of people might even damage their GPU because of, just pressing in like crazy. Fix this. And coming to my biggest negative point on this case, which is build quality. The only part of the case that I would call high quality is this shroud, which I ripped out anyway because I wanted more fans. And by the way, this shroud, because I don't think I mentioned that, this shroud also has additional Velcro strips and helps you to like guide the cables and hide them partially. It looks cool with the shroud, but I want more fans. Anyway, every other part of the case isn't up to the standard that I expected. The side of the PSU, this is just a joke, this is paper thin. The motherboard compartment wiggles, and so does the PSU shroud itself. The replacement side fan mount is held on by a single screw, allowing it to rattle, and basically every panel of the case is too thin. I can easily bend everything here without applying any force whatsoever. The frame itself is fine. That one is strong and I'm happy with that, but everything that attaches to that frame, oh my god. Now I don't want to paint an entirely black picture here. Once everything is back together and you've got like a million fans in there, it's fine. But do not get brutal with the case while building, the panels won't survive that. On that note, I spoke to my contact at Corsair and they are apparently aware of the build quality issue and also of the GPU issue apparently, and they are working on improving that. Thus, future cases or future batches of the 4000D will have thicker panels, they are making them, and that will become less of an issue. But so far, this is still the current state, and this is still what I got, so this is also what I'm going to judge. And a nice little addition, nagging on the highest level. Speaking of which, whoever came up with the power button was probably high. They created a beautiful case just to butcher the design with this monstrosity over here. And for some reason, all the catching screws have a neon yellowish, greenish plastic ring at the end. No clue why they did that, and I'm happy it's just in the back because I definitely don't want to see it. I'm seeing it now during the A-roll, and it's hideous. All black case, and then you got like the neon yellow thing going away. Oh, Corsair, that's the Corsair color. Now I get it. It's still hideous. Again, the two last points are a design thing. You may agree or may not. Maybe you love the power button, the white power button thing on the black case. And to end the nagging segment, I think Corsair released the case too early. So far, there are no replacement parts available, and I think Corsair did a mistake by not releasing everything at once. I get the idea, I love the idea, but I don't understand why somebody would release an upgradable object without the upgrade. I think it puts off a lot of people because they don't want to invest time and money into a case that they will then have to disassemble again because, I don't know, they never wanted the PSU shroud to begin with. And B, that's like the important part, never buy anything on promises made by a company. Corsair says they will release the parts end of the year. I choose to believe that, or at least I don't have a reason to distrust them based on previous statements that they failed to release something. But what if they back down? What if they don't sell enough Frame 4000s and they decide that manufacturing the replacement parts just isn't worth it? If a person would have bought the case with the intent to later rebuild it once the parts are out, well, that person would be fucked. It's basically the same principle as pre-ordering an unfinished game. Do not do that. Buy the product, not the promise. And with that said, I would buy the product. Unavailable replacement parts or not, as it stands now and here, in the state that you can buy the case right now, I love it. And I would absolutely recommend it. And I'm saying that knowing that this is the build quality. It is everything but perfect. But the very good cooling capabilities paired with the other specs, the design, everything combined still makes a very recommendable product, and I love it. And as long as you like the design too, you are going to be happy with how it stands here today, especially because of the price. And I can't believe I'm saying that again, I said that twice about Corsair. I do not know what is up with whoever decides prices at Corsair, but this thing is going for 99 euros on their website, which is a perfectly fine price, really, considering all that InfiniRails system thing, the sideways intake, small PSU spread ventilation, and so on and so forth. 99 is a perfectly valid price. And just to put things into perspective, a triple pack of RX 120 IQ fans costs more. Not even talking about these motherfuckers. And for once, I believe Corsair didn't try to lock you into a proprietary system, because the price of the RS and RS ARGB versions is just as nice. 119 euros, which basically means that you will get 3 RS 120 ARGB fans for 20 bucks more, which, considering how much they cost on their own, is also perfectly fine. So if you've got a build planned, let's say you have the IQ fans, like I had them already, sure, take the 99 euro deal, save the money to buy, I don't know, Corsair stickers. But if not, the RS 120s are perfectly fine fans for the job, and for just 20 bucks more, if you don't have any fans to begin with, that's what I would do. So to buy or not to buy, as for me, absolute recommendation in its current state, even with the build quality, in hopes that they improve before you buy, but you get what I mean. I think the thing as a whole is great, and all the benefits outweigh the few negative points that I have. And I am saying the current state in bold here, and I really stand by it. Buy the product, not the promise. Don't make the mistake of buying something because some company said they will release an upgrade down the line. This has failed too many times, not saying Corsair had. I don't even know if Corsair ever failed with that, but this has happened too many times, don't do it. And this should be everything on my take on the Corsair Frame 4000D, and at this point a huge thank you to Corsair for sending this amazing case over and way too many IQ fans. Oh, on a side note, we have a Discord server, so if you want to join, the link is down below. And we got channel membership, so if you are planning to sell your soul for an RG poop emoji, that's one way to go. But if not, I'm also releasing the content to all members 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Except for the NDA stuff, because, you know, I don't want to get sued. Additionally, you can rest assured that the income will not only keep the channel afloat, but will also serve to send Corsair some good old way. I don't know who's in charge of this part, but he might need some help. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to continue, have a look at the Okina Cypress 7 review I released a few weeks ago. If you're looking for a case that comes with a wooden front panel instead of a promise of a wooden front panel, that might be for you. Thank you for watching, hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.